Georgia begins a full hand recount of votes as part of an audit of the count there. But ABC News can now project that President-elect Joe Biden is the apparent winner there. It's the first time that state has flipped blue since 1992 when Bill Clinton won it. We also know that the 2020 presidential election broke records for voter turnout with more than 150 million votes counted. And with 90% of the expected vote reporting, that number is going to climb even higher. So for more on this really remarkable day in the history of American democracy, we're joined by Vote.org CEO Andrea Haley. Andrea, thanks for being with us. And let me ask you, that really is an amazing figure, that kind of turnout in the United States. And right afterwards, followed by a large number of people, it seems, questioning the veracity of the vote. How do you square that?
Well, I think we saw record turnout this year, as you said, and that really shows the resiliency of the American voter. And I think that's a huge win for democracy. Yes, there are going to be people who, say all sorts of things. But I think that the fact of the matter remains that we know that we had a free and fair election and that the election went really well with record turnout and a lot of people participating. And that means Americans all over this country had their voice heard during a really challenging election year.
And Andrea, Georgia has started to recount every vote there by hand, but state officials have said it's not really a recount, it's an audit. Can you explain the difference?
Yeah, that just means that they're going to go through, everybody's going to count each vote. There's not likely to be any change in outcome, and they're going to go ahead and execute the process, and all of the processes are working like they should, and this will just be a double check on the system.
If there's no expected change, why do this?
I think that this year, election officials want to make sure that every I is dotted and T crossed, and Georgia has been historically a place, where not everyone has had access to the ballot box. And I think that with all of the pressure and all eyes on Georgia, and this year that this is just another step in the process to make sure and make everyone feel 100% comfortable in the election results. But no, there's not likely to be any sort of change, as the Secretary of State of Georgia has said himself.
And Andrea, let me go back to this large number. It'll be upwards of 160 million Americans voting. Do you think that's here to stay? Is it a one-off because Donald Trump is such a dominant figure in the American political imagination right now? Or is there something happening, perhaps all of the messaging to people, hey, it's not as hard to vote as you think. You can vote early. You can vote by mail. We'll help you out doing it, for all the controversy that may be causing with some. Is that what's driving it? Are we in for a period of greater voter participation, do you think?
I think so. I think that we saw, an increase in participation in the midterm elections, especially among young voters, and then an increase in participation here in the general election. So we know that, especially with young voters, once somebody participates in 2 or more elections, they're more likely to become a lifelong voter. So we're really on-ramping the next generation of voters into our democracy, and that's pretty exciting. I also think that with a lot of the events that happened throughout the country this summer, more Americans are looking at, what does it mean when somebody is the mayor? What is the Senate? What does their senator really do? What does their city council do? And people are taking more active role in citizenship, which is really an exciting thing to see. But, at Vote.org, we started to see this interest in the election really early on. I mean, even back in January, people were making sure that they were registered. They were checking that they were on the voting rolls. And I think that people have taken an increased interest in the laws and policies that affect their everyday lives and the people who are elected to determine those laws and policies.
And as we mentioned, Georgia is also hosting these runoff elections for Senate coming up in January. That could determine the balance of power in the Senate. So what do both parties need to do to get people out to the polls for that election?
At Vote.org, we've had over 10 million voter contacts already in Georgia, and we're going to extend our program into the runoff, which is going to be really exciting. I think that people in both parties need to really think about how they're reaching voters. Are you meeting voters where they are? Are you asking for people's votes? I think that one of the big issues is that oftentimes campaigns only reach out to the most likely voter, and that means they're leaving a whole bunch of voters out there without a lot of outreach. That's where vote.org comes in, and we really try to reach young voters and people who don't have a long voting history and make sure that we on-ramp them into our democracy. I think this year we've registered 200,000 voters already in Georgia, and we're really excited to continue that work and do more. But I think that I think this year, with all of the people in Georgia who stood in lines in the primaries, the resilience of Georgian voters, who then showed up again in the general, I think this is a different kind of year, and we're likely to see a lot of people participate in these runoff elections, and that's exciting. All
right, Andrea Haley, it sure is. Thanks for your work, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.